In the twilight of his philosophical journey, Friedrich Nietzsche penned words that would echo through the centuries, words that held within them a paradox so profound it could shatter our understanding of both divinity and humanity. The philosopher who boldly proclaimed God is dead had uncovered a truth about Jesus that would shake the very foundations of religious thought, a truth that lay dormant for 2 millennia, waiting to be unearthed by the most unlikely of spiritual archaeologists. But to grasp this revelation, we must first step through the looking glass of time into the mind of a man whose insight pierced the veil of 2,000 years of religious doctrine. When Nietzsche wrote these words in The Antichrist, his final philosophical testament, he wasn't merely striking matches in the dark of controversy. He had unearthed something far more precious, a psychological diamond buried beneath layers of theological sediment, a truth so radiant it would illuminate the very nature of spirituality itself. Picture, if you will, a moment frozen in time. Scholars huddled over ancient texts, debating miracles and historical minutiae, while Nietzsche stood apart, asking a question so simple yet so profound it seemed to hover in the air like morning mist. Who was Jesus, not as an icon, not as a symbol, but as a human being? What colors painted the canvas of his consciousness? What inner landscape did he inhabit that made him so extraordinary? And in this question, Nietzsche discovered something that would transform our understanding forever. In Jesus, he saw not just a teacher, not just a prophet, but a being who had achieved something extraordinary, a state of perfect psychological freedom. Here was a soul who had transcended the gravity of resentment, floating weightless in an ocean of pure love, achieving what centuries of spiritual practice had only hinted at. Imagine a mirror untouched by dust, reflecting reality without distortion. This was Jesus's consciousness as Nietzsche saw it. When Jesus spoke of the kingdom of God, his words carried a frequency that would be lost in translation for millennia. "The kingdom of God is within you," he said, and in these words lay not a promise of future paradise, but a map to present perfection, a key to unlock the gates of heaven within the human heart. This wasn't a metaphor draped in mystical cloth. This was something far more radical, a declaration of immediate freedom, a blueprint for transcendent existence available here and now, in this breath, in this heartbeat. The kingdom of heaven wasn't a distant shore to be reached after death's dark voyage. It was a state of being as close as your own heartbeat, as immediate as this very moment, as real as the ground beneath your feet. Consider the revolutionary nature of this insight. Jesus wasn't offering humanity a new set of chains, however golden they might be. He was offering wings. He demonstrated a way of being that soared above the battlefield of moral conflicts, where love wasn't a commandment, but a natural state, like water flowing downhill or stars shining in the night sky. In his very being, he embodied a freedom so complete it made the concept of religious rules seem like training wheels on a bicycle meant to soar. But here we encounter the great tragedy that brought tears to Nietzsche's philosophical eyes. After Jesus' death, something profound and profoundly tragic occurred. Those who came after him, burning with zeal to spread his message, committed an act of unintended spiritual alchemy. They transformed gold back into lead. They took his living water and froze it into rules of stone, creating a fortress where he had shown them a garden. The early Christians, in their fervor to preserve and propagate, performed an unconscious transmutation. They took his state of present bliss and transformed it into a promissory note for future reward. His transcendence of judgment became a complex system of sin and punishment. His message of inner freedom was crystallized into a religion of external controls, like capturing lightning in a bottle only to find it's no longer lightning, but merely static electricity. This crystallization of living truth into dead doctrine is what Nietzsche saw as the great betrayal, not just of Jesus' teachings, but of his very mode of being. The Church, in its attempt to make Jesus' state accessible to all, had inadvertently buried it beneath layers of interpretation and dogma. They built a cathedral over the well of living water, and in doing so, made it harder for people to drink directly from the source. This is the deeper meaning behind Nietzsche's famous declaration: "There was only one Christian, and he died on the cross." In these words, we hear not just criticism, but a kind of mourning. What followed wasn't Christianity as Jesus lived it. It was Christianity as the world could understand it, like poetry translated into technical manual, like trying to capture the ocean in a series of photographs. And here lies the exquisite paradox that captured Nietzsche's philosophical imagination. In Jesus, he recognized a spirit so rare it appears perhaps, once in millennia, a being who had achieved perfect harmony with existence itself. Here was someone who had transcended not just sin, but the very concept of sin, not just rules, but the very need for rules. He had reached a state of being where love flowed as naturally as breathing, where forgiveness wasn't an act, but an atmosphere. Jesus didn't die to save humanity from divine punishment. He lived to demonstrate a different way of being human. He didn't establish a religion, he embodied a state of existence that religion could only point to, like a finger pointing at the moon. And in doing so, he achieved something that Nietzsche, for all his opposition to institutional Christianity, couldn't help but admire: a state of perfect authenticity, a freedom so complete it transformed the very air around it. This is the profound truth that Nietzsche unearthed in his final work. Jesus wasn't the founder of Christianity as we know it. He was, in many ways, its antithesis. He was the free spirit who had found not just peace, but perfect unity with existence itself, like a drop of water returning to the ocean. In him, Nietzsche saw the potential of human consciousness fully realized, a state of being that transcended both religion and irreligion, both belief and unbelief. So when we speak of following Jesus, perhaps we're asking the wrong question. Perhaps the real question isn't about following at all, but about becoming, achieving that rare state of being where, like Jesus, we can find the kingdom of heaven not in some distant future or far-off place, but in the eternal present of our own consciousness. For in this realization lies the seed of true freedom, the pearl of great price that both Jesus and Nietzsche, in their own unique ways, pointed us toward. And herein lies the ultimate irony, that it took a philosopher famous for declaring the death of God to uncover the living heart of Jesus' message. In doing so, Nietzsche didn't just challenge Christianity, he offered it a mirror in which it might recognize its original face, the face it wore before doctrine and dogma drew their lines in the sand of time. Thank you for taking this philosophical journey with me today. If you found this exploration of Nietzsche's paradoxical view of Jesus intriguing, please consider subscribing to our channel for more deep dives into philosophy, religion, and human consciousness. Don't forget to share this video with someone who might appreciate a fresh perspective on these timeless questions. Until next time, keep thinking deeply and living authentically.